Hello, everyone. And first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to speak here today. And I hope you will learn something new from the talk. So today we are going to talk about Dart code metrics and how it can help you be more efficient developer, how it can help you improve your code, and how you can use it in your day-to-day development. But first, let's have a few words about me. So my name is Dmitry. I am working right now on a work-oriented browser called Sidekick as a front-end architect. And my journey with Dart started when I worked at Rike. And for those of you who don't know, Rike has a huge Dart code base. It's not Flutter, it's Dart Angular, but still it's Dart after all. And that's where Dart Code Metrics project was initially started. And that's where I found a co-founder for the startup I work right now. And the startup has its main product written in Flutter. So that's all about me. Let's go directly to the Dart Code Metrics, and let's start with the overview of the package. So as I mentioned earlier, Dart Code Metrics was started at Rike, and Rike has about 2.5 million of lines of code. And when you have such huge code base, you start thinking, does all my code like good? Do I have like blind spots? How can I measure the quality of a code base? Where I need to look first, and how bad things are. And with such huge code base, it's really hard to go line by line or ask developers to check their packages and sub-projects, because it will take a huge amount of time. And that's why Dart Code Metrics has metrics in its name, because the metrics were the first feature that we added. And they basically allow you to get an overview of your code base, because you can measure things like lines of code, complexity, maintainability index, and other that at least help you understand where to look first. And it's like a perfect high overview way of measuring your code. Then we added another different features like anti-patterns, lint rules, and other that we will cover today. And I hope covering those features will help you answer what Dart Code Metrics really is and how it can help you be more efficient. But as we talk about the project itself, Dart Code Metrics is a static analysis tool, and it helps you check the quality and the quality of your code before it's compiled and run. An example of another static analysis tool that probably all of you use is the analyzer, but Dart Code Metrics is a bit different tool and provides different set of features, but it uses some analyzer API, especially analyzer plugins API, to integrate into ADEs and other stuff. So let's move forward to metrics. First feature, and metrics is basically just a number. So like, I don't know, you have a file with 500 lines of code. So if you measure lines of code, 500 of lines will be your metric number. And we created a set of metrics, added a set of metrics that helps you to measure your code base from different standpoints. For instance, lines of code for methods, for functions, for files, cyclomatic complexity, maintainability index, amount of methods, and technical depth metrics. They all help you understand different sides of your code base, but metrics don't have like a meaning in case of bad or good. It's just numbers. So I mean, like my team might prefer having all methods no longer than 100 lines, and your team might decide to have 50 lines for and no more. It's totally okay, and that's why we have those metrics configurable. You can set up different thresholds for you and for your team for different use cases, and then get like flexible flexible way to measure and differentiate your code. First of all, the important thing to mention that metrics can help you avoid this situation when your code base become really hard to maintain, because it's really easy to like work in this like non-stop mode. And the problem with the code is that it always grows. There is very little cases when we remove our code, and almost every time we add new features, we add like a lot of code every day. So metrics are the way to understand when you need to stop and refactor and rethink and take another like look on your code base. So that's a list of metrics we now provide. I guess technical depth is the most newest one, and I will talk about it later. Right now, we have like 10 metrics to help you measure the complexity and the maintainability of your code base. Let's take a look at cyclomatic complexity, for instance. This metrics shows how many paths your code has. And it's very useful to reduce this number in order to reduce the complexity for a reviewer or other people that read your code, because the more linear your code is, the easier it's to understand it for your colleagues and for you too. So that's on the left side, we see an example of how to configure this metric, and on the right side, we see an example of a code block. And for this method, we have cyclomatic complexity equal 3, because by default, each method has its cyclomatic complexity equal 1, and while statement and if statement adds up another 1 to the number, and it's resulting 3 in cyclomatic complexity equal 3 for this code example. Moving forward to technical depth, it's really hard to calculate technical depth right now, and we create this solution for you to help. So the idea is to, if you see, as you see on the left side, you can configure different values. Let's talk about it more. So you can set unit type, let's say hours, or I don't know, dollars, or any other like currency, and you add numbers to like to-do cost, like 4. In this example, to-do cost 4 means 4 hours. You can say unit type is I don't know, USD, and to-do cost is I don't know, $100 for fixing to-do, for example. And that's how you can calculate the overall technical depth of your project in different unit types. For example, this setup calculates it in hours. And if I'm not mistaken, technical depth of Dart code metrics in hours is like 1,000 hours, because we have some ignores that we need actually to take a look later on. So it checks for Dart versions when you haven't integrated to the Dart null safety. You probably will add Dart 2.9 version tag or something like that to avoid analyzer complaints. So that is like an example of a technical depth, because later on you will still need to migrate your file to the null safety, and it's like a huge work probably because you added Dart 2.9 tag right now. So technical depth is a way to look at what you really need to pay to make your project better. Moving next to the anti-patterns, it's another feature of Dart code metrics. I think it's the most questionable feature that we have right now, but it helps you to, let's say you have said that you want you have set lines of codes metric to equal 50, and as I said before, metric itself doesn't mean anything. So here comes the anti-pattern long method. If you enable it, all methods that have more than 50 lines in your code will be highlighted in your IDE to help you find them, and you can either like ignore the long method complaints or fix it or like create a to-do task or something like that. So it will help you find them in the IDE. So I think we will need to pay more attention to empty patterns as a feature in the future, but that's how it works right now. And we only support two kinds of anti-patterns, long method and long parameter lists. Moving forward to another feature, and it's custom lint rules. And by custom lint rules, I really mean it. So you probably seen different packages that rearrange existing analyzer rules. So when I say about Dart, when I talk about Dart metrics rules, those rules are custom. We created them by ourselves. We designed them, and we found like different issues on the analyzer repo in the GitHub, and some of the rules were suggested by our community. Some of them were created by us from our experience. So let's take a look at this. Let's talk about rules in overview, and then we'll talk about the exact rules. So our lint rules are highlighted in the IDE. So this is the most important to mention, that if you install Dart Code Metrics as a plugin, you will see rules that you list in Dart Code Metrics config as the same as you see analyzer rules right now, because we actually reuse the same API that analyzer use. And you might ask why we just didn't add those rules to the Dart SDK. And the answer is pretty simple. Our rules are configurable. So instead, you've probably saw that Dart analyzer rules by default doesn't support configuration. You can always say like the error or warning or info type of error, but our rules are truly configurable. For instance, we have a rule that which helps you to manage order of class members. And you can set whatever order you want, like variables first or constructors first, and this is all because we have like configurable rules. And second major idea why we didn't merge it to the SDK, because you can only receive rules from the SDK with a new SDK release. And Dart Code Metrics is just a package. You can just update the version and receive all new features, rules, like in a blink of an eye. So I guess it's like the main reasons why we just we added this as a feature to Dart Code Metrics and not merged rules in the analyzer package. Our rules supports different categories like common, Flutter, Intel, Dart, Angular, and we actually think about adding more rules. So if you have any ideas how we can have rules, for instance, for provider, for, I don't know, for block, for any other package, we will be happy to add package-specific rules, because it's really important to have like stable best practices in the community, as we think. So, and our lint rules supports auto fixes, some of them. Unfortunately, there is no way to auto fix rules from the CLI, but we will talk about this later. So here is a list of the rules, a short list of the rules. For instance, we have rules that will ban set state calls where they should not be called. We have rules to highlight where you use widget functions that return widgets instead of inlining those widgets or creating them separately as separate widgets classes. We have a rule that highlight all inline callbacks in the code, which extracting them might significantly help improve readability of the widget, like build method and etc. Also, we have like common rules, member ordering, unnecessary assertions, unnecessary typecasts that will help you. basically remove things that are not used in your code. Unused parameters too, like those things are not provided by the analyzer right now and only provided by the Dart code metrics. And when I was counting the amount of rules, it was like 39. I thought, oh, I remember when the package had like 10 rules, and now we have like 38, 39. Let's take a look at some of them. Another like a great example of configurable rule member ordering. So in this example, you see that on the left side that there is a configuration for that rule, and on the right side how it will be displayed in the VS Code, for example. Like right now, it complains that that variables should be before the constructors, but you can set up the config whatever you like. Again, and we also support like extended configs. That's why this rule called extended. You can differentiate between late, final variables. You can differentiate between static methods, static fields, etc. You can like order them separately. Avoid return widgets. So it's considered an anti-pattern that you call functions that return widgets inside your build methods, except for builders and other edge cases. So we have a rule that will highlight every usage of such anti-pattern in your code, and you might be able to find it very fast and fix it. The next one is unused parameters. It's very useful because you can refactor your code and really forget that the parameter is unused, and removing them helps you just maintain and manage less code. And extracting callbacks, I personally think that it's very, very nice and easy to have small build methods, because you can easily understand how widget will look like and behave, and extract callbacks to separate methods. So this rule will help you enable this practice in your team, or enable it for yourself. And of course, how we can talk about features and not talk about the pitfalls. Unfortunately, there are two main problems right now with the API that we use from the analyzer. So let's take a look at it. And the first one, that unfortunately, if we use plugins APIs, there is no way to call Dart or Flutter. There is no way to highlight issues that we provide to the analyzer if we call Dart or Flutter analyze. This issue is pretty long, pretty old. And unfortunately, the problem with it is that the analyzer server actually supports it, but doesn't await the result of the plugins. So you might eventually get results from Dart code metrics plugin in Dart or Flutter Analyze, but it's not stable, so it's rather broken than supported. And another problem that the newest Dart Fix command that probably some of you have tested has a hard-coded list of fixes. This was made because it's really easy to mix up the fixes from different rules, and when they conflict with each other, the only solution is to roll back those changes, and Dart team tries to avoid rollbacks as possible. So that's why they hard-coded the list of fixes, and that's why it's not available for plugins to contribute to this list, and for the community to use Dart Fix fixing plugins issues. But no. At least first problem we fixed with CLI, so there is no problem if you still need static analysis or issues highlight or anything like that in your CI. You could still use the CLI that we created. Right now, we support 3 commands in our CLI. First one, analyze calls, check for metrics, anti-patterns, and lint rules. It supports different formats and we will talk about them later. Second command is for searching for unused files. for example, you refactored your project and you need to verify that you haven't left any unused file. So this is a perfect solution for you. You can just call this command on your lib directory and see the all unused files. And third one is the newest command that we added is for checking for unused localization. If you remember that Flutter has two approaches for localization right now. Old one with like the Intel Dart classes with Intel calls, like when you call Intel message, if I'm not mistaken, and the new one with context. So with this command, we support the old one. It helps you identify unused code, unused localization in old approach. And probably we will add more later. We discussed several times possibilities of adding a command for searching for unused mocks. It looks pretty useful. A command for searching for unused code or dead code. This is not a like hard task because there are a lot of tools in different ecosystems that helps you find that code. For example, Google Closure Compiler or Webpack plugins, they all like implement tree shaking algorithms. So I think it's not hard to re-implement those in Dart and get a command that will find all unused code before compilation and help you maintain and manage less code if you have some of it unused. And the third thing that we discussed was a command for searching for copy-paste. I think that it will be very useful too, because sometimes in a hurry we copy-paste code and copy-paste widgets, and it's probably tech debt in some way too. So I think we will work on that command too. There is no like commitment date from our side, but we'll probably work on them in the future. Let's take a look to analyze command. So again, idea to highlight all metric to display in different formats all metrics, violations, rules, and anti-patterns. And that's an example it's an example of running this command on Dart called metrics repo, and you see that there are some highlights of metrics, and with different like colors, meaning that some of the like found issues are critical, and some of them are just like slightly below or slightly above the threshold that we set. Also, Analyze supports different formats. On the screenshot, you see the console format. You can actually change the format to JSON, HTML, GitHub, or GitLab. And let's take a look at HTML format right now. So if you like call this command with reporter HTML, you will see a separate directory with the created HTML files, and you can easily navigate through your like reports and check different metrics and lints violations like separately from your code base. That's an example of that's an example of like all files on your project, and that's an example of like a separate file or single file, and this is like right now it shows only complexity here, but we are working on reworking those reports completely to make them more useful and user-friendly, and there will be not just complexity, and you will be able to switch different metrics and check different metrics separately. And those numbers mean that on that line, the metric has changed. For example, here it's got +1 increment, and here it's got plus another 1 increment. So it's like how metric changes during the code flow. And you can also see some icons. If you hover those icons, you will see additional info about like methods or classes, which is basically metrics and empty patterns violations and also lint rules violations. So another command is check unused files. It has pretty simple output, just shows you which files were considered unused, and that's probably it. And localization, it has a bit more complex output. It shows a class and the getters, the methods that are unused, but in general, it just shows you all unused localization in your Dart file, and has a nice summary. And has nice summary how many of those were considered unused. And of course, Dart code metrics, nothing without additional integrations to CI tools. First of all, we have a GitHub action integration where you can see the summary report of the run of Dart code metrics CLI. It shows not only the summary, but also in every place in the pull request, you'll see comments about like metrics and lint rules, violations, etc. We actually right now working on adding an ability to configure action to send pull request comments. So you'll be able to receive the feedback faster and in the flow of the pull request discussion. I hope it will be released soon. And another integration is CodeMagic. So for those of you who use CodeMagic, we collaborated them together and added support for Dart code metrics. You can check this checkbox with enable Dart code metrics. And you will see these beautiful reports about your code in your CI interface. Okay, and we covered like features about Dart code metrics features that we provide right now. So what's next? If you like the project or you think that it will be useful for you, here is like a small guide how to install it. You just need to add Dart code metrics to your pub spec file, and in the analysis options file, you need to add analyzer entry and plugins entry, and then list Dart code metrics as plugin. That will allow you to see Dart code metrics issues in your IDE. And another entry is required for the Dart code metrics configuration. Let's, I guess, take a closer look to this configuration, I think, since we have a lot of time, actually. So I will reshare my screen for a moment. And so could you see this website with the configuration? I hope yes. This is a configuration of the Dart code metrics. So you need to list metrics and exclude if you need rules, anti-patterns. And that is the example of like basic configuration for Dart code metrics. We even support excluding for separate rules. So if you think that this rule should work only for your production code and not for your tests, you can add, for example, you can add, let's say, if you have this example here. Yeah, you can add like exclude configuration, and this rule will work for leap and don't work for tests. So it's pretty flexible. Or you can say set up rules exclude for like all rules that you listed in your configuration. And you can actually set up override the default severity of each rule. By default, we have error severity, but none of the rules right now have it by default. Most of our rules are either warnings or style rules. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. And it's really important to mention that Dart Code Metrics is an open source free project. It was made for the community, and we actually support it for the community because we think that the need in static analysis tools will only grow because the community grows, the ecosystem grows, everything actually grows. And I think we pay not enough attention to the quality of our code because if you talk about like long living project, the burden of maintenance for some technical depth sometimes could be like devastating. And it's really important to avoid those problems and issues on the early stages. So with that being said, feel free to leave any feedback about features, bugs. We will really appreciate your help with some fixes, pull requests, whatever. So it's really important for us to receive it from you because, as I said, this project is open source, so no like analytics, no tracking. What like we think that is like too much. On the one side, it would be really easy to see what features are used the most, but on the other side, it's kind of, let's say, bad practice to add any like analytics to open source projects. So we decided that we will not add it at any time. So it's really important for us to hear from you. I guess we can make the Dart static analysis ecosystem better together. And I think that's it from my side. This is the QR code to the link to this presentation. You can scan it and open this presentation and go through slides again and check links. What do you need? And you can see here my Twitter nickname. So you can find me on Twitter and ask everything about like Dart Code Metrics, analyzer plugins, and etc. I will be really happy to discuss it with you, and you can report bugs to me and like questions like how to set up everything. So welcome. I will be really happy to discuss it with you anytime. So thank you again.